I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land that we are on today. So I live and work on Gadigal land, and I'm aware that many of you are online today are coming to us from different lands. So I pay my respects to elders past and present. I would like to introduce you today to Tanya Whitehouse. So Tanya is the manager of Macarthur Women's Domestic Violence Court Advocacy Service and a member of the Campbelltown DV committee. So Jackie and I first met Tanya when we were delivering the Women's Health New South Wales strangulation project. And we were really in awe of this woman who had been developing referral pathways for women, including getting her local emergency department to change their processes to better care for women who'd experienced domestic, family, and sexual violence and strangulation. So today, Tanya is going to help us understand the WDVCAS better. She's going to talk to us about the DVSAT and safety action meeting and how they can be used as advocacy tools for clients. And she'll also share her experience working with her local emergency department and building pathways for women. So Tanya, I'm going to stop talking now. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, and welcome everyone who's come to this session. I'm currently on Dharawal land where I live and work as well, so acknowledge elders past, present and emerging. So today I'm going to talk about a few different things. I'm going to talk broadly about DVCASs and what they do, and I'm going to talk, as Courtney said, about a few different things. So I'll start right now. What does a WDVCAS do? So the DVCASs, I've worked in this WDVCAS for 33 years. We are an amazing group of people, but one of the key thing that I'm really passionate about and always talk about is that we're a DV specialist service that works on the ground and covers every postcode in New South Wales. So what we saw as a significant gap back in the day before this process started was that we always missed those women that didn't come to court because we were never given the referrals for them. So that's a huge advantage under the Safer Pathway model that I've seen, among many other things. We work under the Safer Pathway model for New South Wales, so if you're ever having trouble going to sleep at night, Google that and have a read. And we do referrals to appropriate services once we've done our intake. So we have two parts to our service. We have our intakes who get the CRPs, which are the central referral point referrals. They do their intakes, and that determines where that referral goes next. Either it stays in-house or it goes to another service, such as a staying home leaving violence. Caseworkers are available in all WDVCASs, so that was something that was funded in the last few years, and something that we really saw as a huge need, because that means that a lot of the referrals can stay in with that WDVCAS. One of the biggest advantages to that, of course, is that the woman doesn't have to retell her story to another service. If we do need to refer to another service, of course, we give a lot of information, but there's always that crossover when we're sharing stuff when that woman has a chat as well. Every WDVCAS has a DFE specialist worker Aboriginal focus. Other CASs may have roles that might be multicultural, youth, disability, LGBTQA+. CASs develop their focus worker positions based on the needs for their community and, of course, their funding. I have all of those focus workers at the moment. The LGB one is a caseworker, and the youth and disability are both caseworkers as well. So assessments that we get from the police originally. So the way that it works is police attend a domestic violence incident. They then put their information into the portal that is the CRP that is generated by postcode to the WDVCAS that covers her. So if her incident happened in Sydney, but she lives in Campbelltown, we will get that referral because we're the service that is local to her, and we have all of the knowledge that the local service provides to help support her. If she wants to be referred to another WDVCAS for whatever reason, we can easily do that as well. One of the key things that we do that police also do is an assessment tool called the DVSAT, which is a Domestic Violence Safety Assessment Tool. I'm hoping you've all heard of them. My challenge that I say to all services is, if you're not using the DVSAT as part of your assessment tool, why aren't you? There's a common language with the DVSAT. It then also allows you to do further advocacy for your client if she's seen to be a serious threat, where she can then be referred to the safety action meeting. The safety action meetings are held across the state with all the WDVCASs. I'm just going to say CASs. Some CASs have more than one service site. So that could be more of the regional and rural areas. I know that Southwest Sydney WDVCAS, for example, have 3 service sites. So they have 3 separate SAM meetings. For my CAS in Macarthur, we have 1 service site. So we have 1 safety action meeting every fortnight. From an individual perspective, our SAM is the biggest SAM in the state. We have up to 80 matters on our agenda every fortnight, and our matters go from 9:30 till maybe 2:30. Some other CASs that are much smaller might have a much smaller thing, but it's also a ratio of how many staff you have in your area. So the DV study is a really important part of what should be an assessment tool with everyone. If you make a determination that your client is at serious threat, or you escalate her to serious threat on what's called professional judgment, then she will go to the safety action meeting. The benefit for you as a worker, and I'm assuming most of you are from health do have representation as a stakeholder at the SAM meetings. However, you may be able to, if you feel that you really need to come to a SAM to advocate for that one client, you should be able to do that. You just need to speak to your safety action meeting coordinator in your local WDVCAS. We will bump you up the list to be at the top, so you're not waiting 4 hours until it gets to your matter. And then you get to hear all of the people that are sitting around the table talk about the information that they have that we all share confidentially at that SAM meeting. The SAM meeting is something that I'm exceptionally proactive about. There are things that are discussed in the SAM meeting that you're never going to know. There's a lot of places that still work relatively in a silo. And there's a lot of things that you have to go through to get information. So at the SAM, everything's put on the table. We all discuss what needs to happen with her, and then actions are made at that SAM meeting, where it could be housing was to escalate her priority application for housing, or corrections are going to check when he's to be released. One of the other things that we do, well, 2 of the other things we do at our SAM is we have a bail refuse list. So all victims that are on the SAM meeting, the bail refuse list we get from corrections. So when he's due to be released, the WDVCAS will contact her and say, did you know he was due to be released on this date, and do a safety plan with her then. And also the other list we have is a wanted list, where police may be having trouble finding a person of interest or a perpetrator. And discussions are sometimes held about potentially where that person could be. Someone may know a different address, or there may be a service that's engaging with him, so we can have that discussion at that time. The value at the SAM meeting is the stakeholders. So WDVCASs are the ones that put the agenda together. They run the meetings, and the chair of the meeting is usually a crime manager from the police area command that SAM is for. So we share 6 months at a time with our 2 packs. The other thing that the other things that the CASs do is we do advocacy with any service or government department in that area. That could be police, Centrelink, Homes New South Wales, another service provider. Wherever that advocacy needs to occur, that's what we will do. We do financial support applications, which could either be victim services or LVP. We do support at court on an AVO list day. And we also have specific funding for hearing support, which has been in the last year or so, where dedicated workers do all of the hearing support. They run a thing called a hearing clinic, which we do 4 weeks before the next round of hearings are on. We talk to them about what happens at a hearing. A prosecutor comes and talks about their role. We take them into a courtroom so they can be familiar with what that looks like. They can ask all the questions that they want. And in my particular situation with Macarthur, we have a discussion with the women that are there to say, we have an AVL facility in our office, and if women are really wanting to access that, then we can see if we've got availability for her hearing, and then police take on the paperwork side of things with the courts to make sure that that's approved. So what I would say is a WDVCAS is basically your point of contact for anything that's DV related. They should be able to let you know of support services if you're not sure. They should be able to let you know whether there's a waiting list for some services. a lot of NGOs have waiting lists that could be quite extensive, and then we just go from there. In my particular situation at Macarthur, we try to keep a lot of our clients in-house so that they consistently are supported with the same service. We do have other supports in place. We're a Wesnet distributor of phones, so we can give a prepaid phone to a woman that is a safe phone. We have gift cards and things that we can do as well, and we can organise some under assessment with that. With the decision made by myself or my assistant manager, we can do things like get a cleaner to come and do an end of lease clean, or if she's just really struggling with stuff and we want to be able to help her to have a better space at home, we could say, how about we get someone come in and do a clean of the house, so that you've got a space that's okay, that makes you feel a little bit better in terms of the environment that you're in. And the other things are obviously the gift cards for petrol or groceries and things like that. Not all WDVCASs have that. I access a lot of that through club grant funding opportunities in our local area. Any questions? Cool. Next, these are statistics that cover the entire state. So in terms of, I can only access this particular data that covers all of the WDVCASs, but to give you some insight just from the last year's calendar year, there was over 118,000 referrals to all DVCASs across the state. 94, nearly 95,000 of those were threat matters, so not the highest risk. And then the serious threat matters totaled over 23,700, which is an average of 456 per week across the state. Again, the serious threat matters are the ones that seem to be the highest risk. We do get a lot of referrals through our safety action meeting from our social workers at Campbelltown Hospital, which is really, really positive. And we're able to address them in our SAM meeting where we talk about what's going on. Sometimes a woman will tell a lot more when she presents at ED and sees a social worker there. So we find that a really positive collaborative partnership that we have with them. The figures, they're significant. Like if 118,000 in 1 year, that's a lot of people that are contacting police. I would maintain that's the tip of the iceberg. I get a little bit narky when I see media releases about how DV is increasing and blah, blah, blah. It may well be, but I think that the stats that we see are really the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of people out there that still aren't confident to tell anyone. So what I would say to you is, as a worker in the sector doing whatever role you do, part of a really strong collaborative approach is to talk to her about what's going on. Ask her if she wants to be referred to her local WDVCAS. She can talk to them. She doesn't have to go to police. She can have that discussion. And our goal is to give her information to empower her to make a choice. She may not make the choice that we think is the most important one, but at least she's got that information to make a more empowered decision on what she wants to do, knowing fully what her options are. One of the other things that we do and a number of other WDVCASs do is we have solicitors that are at court on our list day, which is a Tuesday, and those duty solicitors will represent any women who are female defendants. So while we are a women's service that's a DV specialist, the women that we support as defendants are ones that do disclose to us that they've had incidents of domestic violence with that same person, and we will offer her free legal rep on the day, and then we will give her options to get information from a solicitor. We also make appointments for women who want to come in and get advice on property settlements or family law and things like that. We do offer them that opportunity as well. Not all WDVCASs have this program, but for those who don't, they would likely refer to the DV line with legal aid, the DV unit, sorry, with legal aid. And some WDVCASs that are connected with a family court have a FAS service as well, which is support for family court. So there should be people that can support her at family court as well. All right, so some of you might be a bit confused. Everybody has acronyms. If I get referrals from health, I have no idea all of the things that they're talking about with all their acronyms. So we have WDVCASs, which are the service providers, and then we have WDVCAP. So WDVCAS is the Women's Domestic Violence Court Advocacy Service, which is a horrendous name to say when you have to answer the phone all the time. And then we have the WDVCAP unit, which is the Women's Domestic Violence Court Advocacy Program unit, which sounds really weird when you say that in full because it just doesn't make sense. We just call them WDVCAP. So the CASs are the workers that do the work on the ground. The DVCAP administer the funding to all 27 DVCASs in the state. They do the mentoring for us. They offer training. They monitor our service providers who auspice us to make sure they meet their service agreement obligations. And they also work in partnership at that higher level with police, courts, Department of Justice, housing, health, those sorts of things. And they also have an overarching monitoring of the safety action meetings too. So if a DVCAS says, we've got a problem with attendance from, example, child protection, then DVCAT might have a conversation with someone from that particular area. The DVCASs obviously do court support, intakes, referrals, case management, safety action meeting, have focus workers, advocacy. We do support letters and hearing support. We're the only DV specialist service that covers, oh, look at that capital S, covers every single postcode in New South Wales. They are amazing, and they're the kind of service that you really need to connect and collaborate with because nobody can do this on their own. My personal experience historically, definitely not now, is historically health very much worked in a silo in our area, and we didn't have that connection with them as well as we could have. We've worked really hard, and so have they, to connect together better and work more collaboratively. Really good indicator of that is the number of referrals we get for our safety action meeting from the social workers and from other health workers. I really would encourage you to get to know your local WDVCAS because there may be a number of things they can help your clients with. From my experience at Macarthur, if I have a worker call me and it's really difficult for her to use her phone or come and visit us in our office or even have a conversation on the phone because there's concerns around safety and risk, we could say to a service provider, well, if she's coming to see you for an appointment, maybe we could meet you there so he doesn't know that she's coming there to meet a DV worker, and we can have that conversation with her and her support worker that she's got at that time. So we can be really creative in how we do that. The rural and regional DV CASs have to be very flexible because of the huge areas that they might cover and how they can work with those women. So each DVCAS works according to the need of their own community. But again, strongly encourage you to get connected with them. So what's the best way to work with your local CAS? Because they seem like a great partner specific to issues around DFE for my client base. I'm just reading all your minds. So there's lots more things. Oh, look, I found another mistake. See, don't do things at 11 o'clock at night. So the easiest way to find your local DVCAS is to call them. There's a statewide number. You ring 1-800-WDVCAS. You get prompted to put in the postcode. So if you want Campbelltown, you put 2560 in. It then connects you directly to that local WDVCAS, only during business hours, unfortunately, but that is a great way to get connected to say, hey, you might be an Aboriginal worker in a health service and you want to connect with the Aboriginal focus worker there to see what you can do together. You might want to connect with someone who works with the multicultural community, whatever. Tell me about your SAM. How do I refer to the SAM? How do I refer a client to your DVCAS to get support? Ring them and have a conversation. I'm sure there will people at that WDVCAS that are happy to help. If you do the DVSAT, and again, if you don't, why don't you? You would be referring your clients to the safety action meeting if the rating is serious threat. You should be able to attend that meeting to advocate for your client. However, I'm conscious that health do represent at the SAMs and are a stakeholder. Some health workers don't come to our SAM meetings because they rely on the health workers that attend. But I will say there's a lot of information that doesn't go outside of that meeting that you're not going to ever find out unless you're able to know who that service is and talk to them. But the conversations that we have around the table are really significant. And it's an opportunity also. I'm all about challenging people. So it's an opportunity to challenge those stakeholders that are sitting at the meeting, why they're not doing something. That might be child protection, or it might be a service provider that's already working with her. It might be corrections. It might be, we might say this perpetrator is going to be released on this date. Is he going to be monitored with electronic monitoring? And corrections response will be, well, we have an assessment criteria. They don't reach the threshold for the concern. We can say, well, we're going to tell you that there is that concern because we know this, this, and this, which he wasn't convicted for, but we know because we've had it disclosed to us or we've seen evidence of whatever has happened. So definitely think about the DVSAT, using that as part of your assessment tool. There is a new DVSAT that's come out for service providers, and I will send that to Courtney and Jackie for them to send out if anybody wants it. If you're in the Macarthur area and you're not using it, I'm happy to talk to your team leader or manager about that. I'm happy to come to your team meetings if you're in Macarthur. If you're not in the area and you want the DVCAS to come and have a yarn at your service, ring the DVCAS and ask them to come and talk at your team meeting. You might find out a whole lot of stuff that they're doing that you weren't aware of that could be to the value of your client. And again, that's about collaborating. Lastly, I can't say 100% every WDVCAS has this, but we have a roster of what we call seconded workers. So they're trained by the WDV CAP unit, and that's just an online training where they do that. You actually come to court on our AVO list day, and you basically do what we're doing, but we gain your expertise in the role that you have, and you gain more knowledge and expertise around how court works. So it just works. It's really valuable for everybody. You get to meet the DVLOs because they're at court. You get to see how court works. You meet some of the people that work at the court. At Campbelltown Court, we have a lot of stakeholders there. We've got merit, we've got corrections, we've got ALS, we've got legal aid, we've got a mental health person. So it's a good opportunity to kind of connect with them if you need to. Sometimes we'll get a referral from legal aid on the day for a woman who's a defendant who thought that legal aid could help her and then unable to. And we do work with everybody in that court system. So being a seconded worker, in my CAS, I ask that you commit to doing that until morning tea, which is at 11:30. So it's 9:30 till 11:30. It's a couple of hours out of your day. You're going to gain a lot of insight. You're going to also see, which can help you to become a better worker. You'll see the impact that court has on those women that attend. So, most weeks we end up with a theme for the week. It could be mental health week, or it could be a really distressed week where everybody in the safe room is getting really upset. It could be an angry week where everybody's cranky about something and we've got, people left, right and centre having a go. It could be that we've just got our safe room's really big, but this week it was full. There wasn't a spare seat. So we also have, which I love in our court, we have the support dogs come in. So they come in like they do for district court matters. They actually go all around the court. So I see the value for everybody who's at court, whether you're a defendant or whether you're a victim. The dogs will help them to calm down. They can pat the dog. The dog will sit with them. We've had some really exceptional support dogs that have come into the room. Everybody's just sitting there and the dog will go to a particular woman because he's got that sense that she needs something and she'll be able to pat him. Her anxiety may come down a little bit. The dogs are always keen for food, so they always look to the person that's got them there and, where's my chicken or where's my carrot? The kids love it. Multiple times we see kids lying on the floor with the dogs, which is also really a huge benefit, particularly if you've got kids who are a little bit off chops at court. You're keeping them in a room where there's a whole lot of people, there's a whole lot of different emotions going on. There's toys and things they can play with, but having a dog there makes a huge difference to those kids and how they're able to really calm down. And I watch that in the general waiting area as well with everybody that's there. I'm someone who notices everybody. So, and I'm also someone who will go and ask someone if they're okay. I don't care if you're male or female or whatever background you have. If you look like you're really distressed and you've got the knee wobble going and you're on your own, you don't know what you're doing, I will always go and ask them if they're okay and if they know what do they need to do today. Have you gone and seen the right people? And sometimes I've actually had conversations with men who've been defendants at court. And when they talk to me, I sometimes realize I've actually had their mum as a client, 20 years ago. So we can have that conversation about who are your people supporting you at court, because for me, the worst thing, I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what your background is. If you're at court and you're looking really distressed and you don't know what to do, I'm going to ask you if you need to know, if you know where you need to go. Like, you might not even know where the registration desk is, or you might not know where to find your name and what court you're in. Having that conversation with someone to just check in is really important, because you don't know their story, you don't know their background. This particular young man, I know what he grew up in because I had his mum as a client. I didn't tell him that, but he had no one supporting him and he had no idea what to do. And, people that just might not know how the system works. Have you got a legal aid solicitor today? Do you know what the process is? Do you know you can ask for an adjournment? And I'm not giving them legal advice. I'm just giving them information that points them in the right direction. I also call all the female defendants at court to see if they have legal reps. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, sometimes they don't want it. But we do offer that as an opportunity for them as well. And my response to, oh, it's okay, I don't want it, is, this is free. You're probably going to get into court quicker if you've got a solicitor, because they do all those matters first. And it's certainly helpful for you, particularly if you're a female defendant and you work in a service where having an AVO and a conviction against you is going to impact on your capacity to do your job. Then come and have a chat with a solicitor, and then you can make an informed choice on what you want to do next. I didn't see that, Jackie. What did that say? Do you want me to look at the chat?
It was just, would you mind talking a little bit about supporting women who've been misidentified as the perpetrator?
Yes.
And yeah.
Yes. So I have 19 staff and we're all angry, fierce women. So when we have a client that we see at court, because we're not going to get a referral for her, we will see her on the court list. And we go through every page in our court list. Sometimes a court list for Campbelltown could be 130 pages long, because they have traffic matters on the same day as well. So we go through the whole court list. If we see a woman who's a defendant, we still check our system to see if she's been a client before. I definitely call them, I call them 3 or 4 times throughout the day, because not everybody gets to court on time. And if she is a defendant, I will ask her if she wants that support. Then I'll take her to the safe room. She'll get an intake done with one of my staff or a seconded worker. Sorry, I'm going to go backwards. One of the benefits of the seconded workers is, say, for example, I've got a worker there from Staying Home Leaving Violence. We see that there's value in her being referred to that service, particularly for the safety audit that they might be able to do at her house or things like that. We will then say, hey, this is Mary. She's from Staying Home Leaving Violence. She's going to have a chat with you about what her service can do to help you. And then that client has a face to a name. She understands what that service does, and they can continue to work with her. Fast forward back to the misidentified women, we will definitely challenge anyone and everyone on that issue, as any WDVCAS, I will say, would. What we would do is we would make contact with the police area command, the DV team that is there. We will give them more information, because she may not have told them a whole stack of stuff. She may well have done something that needs to be an action against her. She may well, I had a woman that I'd known for many, many years. That's one of the advantages is being a dinosaur, is that I remember faces. I'm never going to remember names, but I remember faces. And I said, oh, hey, what are you doing at court today? And mindful that I'm in Campbelltown. And she said, oh, I shanked him. And I went, oh, okay then. So you got charged for that? And she said, yes. And I said, have you got a lawyer? Yep. Are you happy with what you've got going on at the moment? Do you want any support? No, I'm right. I know where you are. But she had done something that she shouldn't have. Likely she was, there was behaviours that happened before that caused that reaction. But at the end of the day, if an offence has been committed, police will need to charge for that, or they may choose to do an AVO. Sometimes our solicitors will strongly advocate at court as well. I had one woman I can recall, I don't know when, I've lost all concept of time. It was sometime in the last, let's say, 12 months. She had an AVO against her. The allegations were a part of what had happened. However, the solicitor made the DVLO come out of court and showed her all of the Facebook posts that he'd done and all the text messages he'd sent her, which resulted in the police withdrawing that matter at the next court date because they had more information. So part of what we have is a really vital role in advocating for those women who are misidentified. In some instances, our advocacy doesn't account to any change. However, we can have those conversations. We can make sure she's supported at the time. We can make sure she gets that support through mental health if she needs, or drug and alcohol if she needs, or getting some more legal support around her family law matter, or we can be her advocate with child protection, where we will actually do things like go to her case plan meeting and stuff like that if we need to, because we all know sometimes that can be quite a horrendous thing to attend on your own and have nobody there that seems to have your back, even though you've done everything you could to keep your kids safe. So yes, we do advocate for that. Sometimes I'll go in, no, I'm all over the place now. Calm down, Tanya. So one of the things that we have is our ED unit pathway, which I love, love, love. And was done basically because there's amazing people in our health community who have the same passion and could see the same gaps for women who should have been accessing the ED that weren't for whatever reason. So Dr. Helen Rhodes is an amazing human. I met with her a few times and we had a bit of a general discussion / little bit of a bitch about the gaps that we saw in the systems. We had 2 coffee dates and then she rang me and said, I think I've found a solution. So that started our ED pathway, which is where if any service, not just mine, any service has a woman who comes who makes a disclosure of any DV injury, not just strangulation, not just a traumatic brain injury or a blow to the head, any DV injury that is still impacting on her well-being, we ring a particular number at the ED unit. We say, I'd like to put Mary Smith on the wait list. We're anticipating her coming in tomorrow morning at about 9:30. I will then, from my service perspective, I will send a worker with her because we had done that predominantly. We had one time where we had a woman there, the worker stayed with her, but she had to leave. The woman was there for quite some time. She had some medical issues that they were looking at and dealing with, but her trauma brain wasn't working by then. So when we rang her in the afternoon to say, how's it going? She said, they're not doing anything. They want me to go and do this. They want me to go and do that. And she was cross about what had happened. We then spoke to the doctor and the nurse and got a much clearer idea of what had been said. So we were able to say to her, actually, they're just doing this, this, and this, and that's what the delay is. There's, a bunch of people waiting for a CT scan or whatever it was. So as much as we can, I will send a worker with her. We also try to let the social workers know at ED that the woman's coming, and then we all meet together. When she gets there, under the pathway, she's triaged straight away, and then she's put out the back in the short stay unit. The benefit of that is that nobody can see her. We have a number of women that have been sitting in the waiting room at ED where they've had someone from his family or a friend of his who's been in hospital, who's then rung him and said, she's here. And she's been absolutely terrified. I had one woman who left still with a cannula in her arm because she didn't want him to find her at ED. Her fears were extremely genuine. She's someone that we will always see as a very high-risk client with the behaviours that have been perpetrated on her. So putting them out the back in the short stay helps alleviate that part of the risk. And then she's assessed as quickly as she can be by the nurses and the doctors. scans or whatever needs to be done are done as soon as they can. She then gets a discharge summary. The notes are done very well by the doctors there. We've had many conversations with them, which then allows the police to get those that discharge summary with a view to potentially charging that person with an offence, because there is medical evidence around that. So while we're not a forensic unit by any means whatsoever, what we do have is a capacity for the ED unit to note the injuries, to note what she's disclosed so that police can act on that. And an example is a woman went into ED, she'd disclosed to us that she'd had a strangulation. She was assessed because she had some medical implications that had come from that. And once the notes were done by the medical professionals, police were able to get those notes and actually charge him with an intentionally choked charge. So the other side of that, when we go down the track and we get to court, is a defence solicitor is going to be very concerned about a medical report that shows injuries, and it just makes it that little bit harder to dismiss. You've got either a woman who comes to court and says, yes, he did this, I had bruising, police might have photos of the bruising, and I think I had a broken rib, but I never went to the doctor, or I went to my GP, but I didn't go and get an x-ray, compared to medical information that the police have sourced from the ED unit that says this was done, there was this bruising in this area, there was all of these injuries, this is what she disclosed. There's far more weight by the time it gets to court when you have that kind of information. And my challenge is that this should be able to be done everywhere. This pathway was done with no funding. It was done by good people, committed people in the ED unit, committed social workers who supported as well, and committed WDVCAS workers and other DV service providers in our area. So the ED unit already had their own domestic violence committee. They'd already had things in place for many years, and that was the catalyst for being able to move it quicker. And on my side, I know everybody that works in the area, so we all got together and said, absolutely, we support this, let's do it. And I've got services that are waiting eagerly to support an outreach if that's something that can come in the future. So again, I've talked to all of my WDVCAS sisters about this. There is this opportunity to do good. You've just got to be able to find the right people with the same passion and with the same support of their higher levels in health. I do call them the ivory towers. But yes, I agree. Advocacy is a very important part of this. And again, I come back to that word collaborate. If we're working in silos, we're not going to get anywhere. You're going to be restricted by your own practices and policies in your own workplace. You might not be able to do the things that you can see you need to. However, when you do it together, you have more voice, you have more weight with the things that you want. I won't talk anymore about the ED pathway. What I will talk about is my next slide was just about financial supports. I'm not sure what knowledge people have around financial supports. For us, there's two options. There's victim services and there's the Leaving Violence program. So victim services is has a number of opportunities for financial and counselling support. Counselling support through victim services is free. If you do refer a client through counselling to victim services and that counsellor then tries to charge them, raise hell or high water with that, because they're not supposed to do that. The issue can be availability of counsellors who may also have a waiting list. We tend to keep a list in Macarthur of who we've got, and if we have a client with a particular area of need, we would say, because once they're approved, they get sent a list of counsellors in the area. We might say, 1, 2, and 3 are ones that we have a lot of clients go to, and they're really good. There's two financial payments, or two of the most important financial payments is an immediate need support payment, which is up to $5,000. And that money can enable change of locks, duress alarms, medical bills, forensic cleaning, all of those sorts of things. It can be to buy things that you might need to buy. You might need to buy some furniture or white goods or things like that. ideally have the service do the application, which is you guys. She can do it herself, definitely, but she will need some supporting documentation. So that could be a certificate of injury form that's through victim services that she can get done by her counsellor, her doctor. But as a service provider, we will write a letter of support that highlights the event numbers, what she's disclosed to us has happened, and our confirmation that she has indeed been a victim of crime and is entitled to the immediate needs support payment. She'll also need to provide ID, which can be problematic for some women. She'll also need to have her own bank account. They're not going to put money into a bank account that's a joint account, even if he's no longer accessing it. So it might be that you need to have a conversation with her around, how about you open your own bank account? I can help you with that, blah, blah, blah. A lot of bank accounts you can now open online, so you could do them with her in your office. The recognition payment is only $1,500. You've got, immediate needs, you've got to do that within 2 years from the act of violence, specific to domestic violence. Recognition payment is $1,500. You've got to do that within 5 years. Again, you need the supporting documentation and ID. The counselling is free, and I can do the counselling application. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So fill that in. To note, though, the conversation you might need to have with her, particularly for an immediate needs payment, is that we can't guarantee that victim services will go to the perpetrator of violence and ask them to pay that money back. So if there's charges that have been laid, he's been found guilty, they may ask him. We've advocated for many, many years to say, can that please have exceptions if there's risk for her safety, things like that. That hasn't changed that I've seen. So it is a conversation, and quite a few women will say, I'm not going to do it because I don't want him to know I got it. The next option of a leaving violence payment would be the best thing to go to for that, which is positive because, I don't know, 7 odd years ago, that wasn't an option at all because that was victim service was the only one. And I'll give a quick example. I had a woman, significant DV, he carried a gun around in the car, was a POS in every way possible. Children had also been kind of infiltrated by him, and she had got the old victim services payments were up to $10,000. She'd got that payment. He got told he had to pay it back, and she was actually he was making her pay it back. So kind of it was pointless, but that was the coercive control at that time that she had. So just be mindful of that. If we go to the next slide, the other financial support is the Leaving Violence program. The Leaving Violence program has evolved to be something that I'm relatively supportive of now. When it first started, it took over the EVP, Escaping Violence Payment. LVP is a federal program that goes across this country. It only covers intimate relationships, not family violence, and it must be applied for within 12 weeks. So that's your difference in victim services and LVP. They can get a cash payment of up to $1,500. They can also get the rest of it. They get it in some prepaid card I'd never heard of before, black something. I'd never heard of it before. They can use that card to go and buy a fridge or go and buy a lounge or whatever, or a bed or whatever they need to. However, we tend to focus on getting invoices, particularly for alarms and duress alarms for clients. We have a service that we use for all of our things like that. And they will we send the invoice, we upload it into the portal, and then they will pay that invoice directly and then she gets the remainder of the monies left in another card. So she might spend $2,500 of that $3,500 that she's got left. It's because it's $5,000 in total. She'll get the rest in a gift card that she can go and use for whatever. What we did find was a lot of women were saying, yeah, I'll buy that. And then when they got asked by LVP, do you just want it all in a prepaid card, they'd say yes, but they didn't usually end up getting the alarms and the things that we deem to be safety needs. So I kind of reinvented my form a little bit because I wanted to make sure that she was aware that we assessed this to be the risk, that we recommended this. And if she doesn't go with that, that's her choice. But this is what we recommend as a DV specialist service, because there's always that concern that something more serious might happen. And we want to make sure we've done everything we can to encourage her to access the safety supports that she may have identified. You can only claim LVP once every 12 months. A support letter is asked. So if she does it on her own, she's going to ring someone and ask for a support letter anyway. My team are registered on the portal for LVP. It is so much easier. You can track it. It's just been amazing to have the portal for that. So if you're in a service where you don't have that yet, as a portal, talk to your manager about being able to do that. And reinforce when you do go on the portal that you are applying for the client. And check out the LVP site for any further information. I think that's it. Is it up to questions now?
I think it is.
We've definitely
Cool.
got one in the